We have all dreamed of getting into a time machine and going to the past or the future. Imagine being able to witness historical events firsthand, or to travel to distant galaxies. The possibilities seem endless. However, time travel may not always be full of adventure. There are some periods when going there can be a complete nightmare. So you're thinking of taking a trip to the Middle Ages, eh? Maybe you're picturing grand castles, chivalrous knights, and elegant ladies? Well, hold on to your horses, because the reality of the Dark Ages is far less glamorous. For starters, let's talk hygiene or lack thereof. People in the Middle Ages didn't bathe as often as we do today, and trust me, you'd smell the difference. Chamber pots were emptied into the streets, and let's just say sanitation wasn't exactly a top priority. And if the stench doesn't get you, the diseases might. The Black Death, smallpox, dysentery, these were just a few of the plagues that ravaged Europe during the Middle Ages. Without modern medicine, even a small cut could turn fatal. But hey, maybe you're thinking, I'm a survivor, I can handle a little dirt and disease. Okay, tough guy, let's talk about daily life. For the vast majority of people, life in the Middle Ages was back-breaking work. We're talking about 12-hour days of farming with primitive tools and no labor laws to protect you. And if you weren't a peasant, you were probably a serf, which was basically just one step above slavery. You'd be tied to the land, forced to work for a lord who could tax you however much they pleased. So unless you're a historian with a death wish, I'd suggest steering clear of the Dark Ages. Alright, so you're even more adventurous than I thought. You want to go back to the Paleolithic Period? The dawn of humanity? Okay, but remember when I said the Middle Ages were rough? Multiply that by, well, a lot. First off, forget your smartphone, your laptop, even your trusty Swiss Army knife. In the Paleolithic period, technology meant using a sharp rock to make a slightly sharper rock. You'll be hunting and gathering your food, and let me tell you, grocery shopping will never seem so easy again. Speaking of hunting, you better hope you're faster than a woolly mammoth and twice as cunning as a saber-toothed cat, because those are just a couple of the creatures you might encounter. And don't forget about the elements. We're talking about a time before central heating, folks. Are you prepared to brave the next ice age with nothing but a fire you started by rubbing two sticks together? Now, I'm not saying the Paleolithic period wasn't significant, but it was also a time of immense hardship and danger. Ahoy there, matey! Ever dreamt of sailing the high seas, feeling the wind in your hair and the salt spray on your face? Maybe you've even imagined yourself as a swashbuckling pirate plundering ships and claiming treasures. Well, before you sign up for that life, let's drop anchor and consider the reality of 18th century seafaring. First, forget about luxury cruise liners. We're talking about cramped wooden vessels, often infested with rats and lice. Seasickness would be the least of your worries. Food was often scarce and poorly preserved, leading to scurvy, a debilitating disease caused by vitamin C deficiency. And let's not forget about storms. Without modern navigation and weather forecasting, ships were at the mercy of the elements. A sudden squall could mean disaster, leaving you stranded at sea or dashed against the rocks. Now let's talk about those romanticized pirates. Sure, there was a certain freedom to their lifestyle, but it was a brutal existence. Pirate ships were ruled by a strict code, and punishments for disobedience were harsh. So unless you've got a strong stomach, a tolerance for hardship, and a death wish, I'd suggest staying on dry land. Chapter 4. The 1940s. The terrible years of the Second World War. The 1940s, a time of global conflict, political upheaval, and unimaginable suffering. World War II, the deadliest conflict in human history, raged across the globe, leaving millions dead and countless others displaced. Imagine a world where food is rationed, cities are reduced to rubble by bombings, and fear is a constant companion. The horrors of war touched every aspect of life. Families were torn apart, economies crumbled, and basic human rights were violated on a massive scale. So, unless you have a burning desire to experience the horrors of war firsthand, I'd suggest staying firmly rooted in the present. Chapter 5. The Last Days of Pompeii. The Eruption of Mount Vesuvius. Ah, Pompeii, the ancient Roman city frozen in time, buried under volcanic ash and pumice. It's a fascinating glimpse into the past, a time capsule preserving the lives of ordinary people going about their day. But let's be clear, witnessing the eruption of Mount Vesuvius firsthand is a terrible, terrible idea. Imagine a sunny summer day, the air still and heavy. Suddenly the ground trembles beneath your feet. A deafening roar splits the sky as Mount Vesuvius erupts, spewing forth a towering column of ash and molten rock. Panic grips the city as people flee in terror, desperate to escape the fiery inferno. The air quickly fills with choking ash, making it difficult to breathe. Superheated volcanic debris rains down from the sky, igniting buildings and setting the city ablaze. The once bustling streets become a death trap, littered with bodies buried under a growing blanket of ash. So while the ruins of Pompeii offer a fascinating glimpse into the past, let's leave it at that. Chapter 6. The French Revolution, Chaos and Terror. Ah, the French Revolution. A time of radical change, when the old order was swept away and the ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity echoed through the streets of Paris. But let's not romanticize this tumultuous period. The French Revolution was a time of great upheaval, marked by violence, political instability, and social unrest. Imagine a city on the brink of chaos. The streets are filled with angry mobs demanding bread and change. The air crackles with tension as rumors of plots and counterplots swirl through the cafes and salons. The monarchy, once seen as invincible, is now teetering on the edge of collapse. The storming of the Bastille, a symbol of royal oppression, ignited a firestorm of revolution that swept through France. The guillotine, a symbol of the reign of terror, became a grim reminder of the revolution's bloody excesses. So, unless you're a historian with a penchant for danger, I'd suggest avoiding the French Revolution. Chapter 7. Ice Age, a struggle to survive. So you're thinking about taking a trip back to the Ice Age? Maybe you're picturing yourself bundled up in furs, hunting woolly mammoths across vast frozen landscapes. Well, hold on a second before you pack your parka. The Ice Age was no winter wonderland. For starters, let's talk about the cold. We're not talking about a chilly day in January here. We're talking about temperatures so low that your breath would freeze in your lungs. The air would be dry and unforgiving, chapping your skin and making every breath a painful reminder of the relentless cold. And then there's the matter of finding food. With the world locked in a perpetual freeze, vegetation would be scarce. You'd be reliant on hunting for survival, and let me tell you, tracking and killing a woolly mammoth is no easy feat. So, unless you're a paleontologist with a death wish, I'd suggest sticking to warmer climates. Chapter 8. The Early Colonial Period. Harsh and brutal conditions, the age of exploration, the founding of new nations, the promise of a fresh start in a new land. The early colonial period might seem like a time of adventure and opportunity, but the reality was far harsher than most history books portray. For those who dared to cross the ocean, the journey itself was fraught with danger. Cramped, unsanitary conditions on board ships led to outbreaks of disease that could decimate entire crews. And those who survived the voyage often found themselves ill-prepared for the challenges that awaited them in the New World. The early colonists faced a wilderness teeming with unfamiliar dangers. Native inhabitants, often wary of these newcomers encroaching on their lands, presented a constant threat. Disease, starvation, and exposure were constant companions, claiming the lives of countless settlers. Life in the early colonies was a constant struggle for survival. So unless you have a strong stomach for hardship and a yearning for the unknown, I'd suggest sticking to more modern times. Chapter 9. Conclusion. The Dangers of Time Travel. Time travel. A concept that has captivated the human imagination for centuries. The allure of witnessing historical events firsthand, of righting past wrongs, or of simply glimpsing the future is undeniably powerful. But as we've explored in this series, time travel is not without its dangers. From the plagues of the Middle Ages to the horrors of World War II, history is replete with periods best left undisturbed. So while the dream of time travel is likely to persist, let us proceed with caution. Outro. Time travel. A cosmic perspective. You know, when we think about time travel, we often get caught up in the where and the when, but we rarely stop to consider the why. What drives this innate human desire to journey through time? Is it a yearning for adventure, a desire to alter the past, or simply a fascination with the unknown? So while the possibility of time travel remains a tantalizing concept, let us not forget the incredible journey we're already on. Let us embrace the present, learn from the past, and strive to create a future worthy of our wildest dreams.